Haying season's about upon us, so I've got a couple of wagon beds here I need to redo. This time that fine store-bought lumber, it lasted 3 or 4 or 5 years, not very long. It was ground contact treated lumber, but she won't go. We're gonna saw up some white oak. I know I should have been doing this over the winter, but let's face it, in the springtime, a young man's fancies turns to the fair sex. An old man like me, I start thinking about haying season. 2 reasons. I'm a little older, and plus, my theory is if in the springtime your fancies turn towards the fair sex, you've wasted your winter. We're gonna saw up some white oak, some red oak on the sawmill and the edger, and build these laminate deals here. Show you what I do there, show you a couple tricks. There's a little bit guy needs to think about, especially if he's an old man working on a hay wagon. I finished the front a little bit different, and I finished the back a little bit different, so it'll last longer than what you're normally seeing. Looks like I'm gonna have to work without fingers one of these days, so I also put some deals in there to make tie downs easier. Stick around, we'll build us a hay wagon. We sawed 2 by 8s, but I sawed them down so I could laminate them back together, and I took about 20-foot lumber because it was weird shaped at both ends, but I knew I could get what I needed out of it, and then I turned them end for end and overlapped them. That way if there's a knot in there, it's not all the way through both pieces. It's part of it's here and part of it's there. Make a real strong board. Some of this thin aluminum flashing, you can prolong your rails by covering them with this. It's pretty easy to mess with. That's the easy way to measure, see if you got a nut. This will keep your hay chaff and everything from setting down on top of these and holding moisture and rotting them out prematurely. Now when I'm building with rough cut, I'll put my screws over here at corners where the wagon's gonna go, and I'll let stuff hang off either side. I'll square up both ends at once, and then like a board like this, a little bit bad on one end, I know I let it hang off instead of justifying it the other way. And then when everything's done, well, I just put a chalk line on there and scribe her off. That was 20-foot long log, and she had some stress in her, so when I ripped it down the middle, it bowed up like a rainbow. You can see down this edge, but she's pretty green with pull that. I've got one screw down here in this far corner, and we'll pull it even to about right there. Put another screw in it. Pull it all the way down through there. You guys know what the noise is going on in the background. That's the idiot. How can you not enjoy that? The next thing we do is got to put them uprights on. You can see I got that side on. I got one hole drilled through this and here, and a half a hole. You got to use a socket, and a right side socket for that drill bit. We'll get the drill the rest of the way. Everything's square in the bed, pretty even, so I think we're in good shape here. Old rusty bolts come out of the last one. Took a little bit of wire brushing, but if you grew up beating nails out of old boards, old rusty nails out of old boards, and then turning them and beating them flat and putting them in a Prince Albert can or a coffee can or a bean can or a jar or whatever else you didn't waste and throw away, you know where I'm coming from here. These bolts are experienced, that's all. So the next thing we're going to do is get ready to, I'm going to prop these next runners up. I got one of them put together. They're leftover standards off a different wagon. Tick season. They're leftover off a different wagon. They're store-bought lumber, but they stood upright, so they wasn't too bad a shape. Now this next step, it's got some leeway, but it can be troublesome to fit. So after doing a few of these, it needs one hole drilled up in here somewhere to be a pivot, so this headache can lay down going down the road, because that's what beats these standards up so bad, is going down the road and wobbling back and forth when it's empty. When mine are empty, I fold them down on the deck, and you can run 30-40 mile an hour down the road and it ain't beating the headaches off, or the standards off of it. So it needs a hole, and they need to be about similar on both sides. That way they're pivoting the same. So I usually take my square, line up the inside there, and go up wherever I'm going to go. We're going to say 10 inches. I'll mark a line up and down here. That's for my depth in, so that's the same on both sides, and go to 10 inches. Right there, give or take, where I'm going to drill my hole. Now you'll notice when I'm setting this up, and I've got it clamped down, I've got this board, it's hitting right here, so it's stood up basically all it's going to, see. because it's hitting here, and the pivot being offset towards the front's making this back end run a bigger arc, and it makes that front end run less of an arc, so you don't have to skive as much off of it to get it to clear to come up and out. So we'll drill that hole in there and we'll see if she'll rotate. If it won't, a lot of times I gotta drive that out and maybe take off the inside or whatever I need to do. If you set it up like this, you only have to take off the inside. You don't have to add anything to the outside. And what I try to do is eyeball it best I can, get it pointed towards where that other bolt's going to be over there. Just imagining like it's going to be one through bolt all the way through it. Then we got to clean up another bolt. Be right back with you. Seeing as how I remove this bolt with my Husqvarna fine tuning tool, probably ought to straighten the threads up. Now we'll see if she'll pivot. You can see how that's at an angle there. That allows that to run in and stand right up straight. Oh, ain't that nice? And you'll see how we'll finish this here out in just a little bit, which will keep it from coming over center too. Okay, here's how I finish out a wagon on the front. I'll show you front to back real quick. We're done with it. Got it all bolted down to the frame. Got my old man step here. You'll see that in just a second. Always drill a hole somewhere. Put a drawbar pin. Don't cost nothing to do it, and it don't hurt nothing. And then you ain't always got to hunt your drawbar pin. On the front, I always hook a piece of chain in there. I tie my loads down with like those 27-foot ratchet straps. You can buy pretty reasonable. The ones I buy's got a J hook on the end. They'll just hook in there and there. Saves from having to hunt a place quick and easy. Like I say, the old man step, that's because I'm getting a little older. I'm not hooked up to anything, but tongue's usually up there. And that's just one more step to save these old knees. Same thing on these uprights in the back. There's chains so I can hook my ratchet straps in there. This thing stays folded down until I get to the field. If you're not stump broke, you don't ever want to drive through the field with them up without hay on them. They'll bang down, and I'm serious, if you're very gunny, you'll think you've been shot. She slams down, makes the biggest noise, so if you're jumpy, that's a bad thing. But I get to the field and I just stand it up. And it hits the back and the bottom, it won't go over center. Now I load with a machine, a grapple, so sometimes I'm not pressed real tight up against that. And on a solid standard, when you're tying from here to the front, if your hay's not pressed against it, you're just pulling from here to there. You're trying to pull this in. The way this one is, if my hay's here, it'll pull this in until it hits that hay, and it's pulling off the hay that way. Now, that may not be tight against it at the bottom, but I'm exaggerating a little bit of what's happening. I'm not pulling off the top of this standard and off that hinge point down there on a solid one. I'm not pulling against that. I'm pulling against the hay, which makes these last a lot longer. So there's two benefits. It doesn't beat itself to death going down the road, and when you're tying off of it, essentially you're pulling off the hay up here. The hay's stopping it instead of just your bolts. If your hay's out here, you're pulling against bolts and everything else and putting a bow in this, just trying to get that strap tight, and it's still not holding the back of that hay. So there you go. There's what we got. I'll show you the back end, show you how I finished it up. Now, without these on here, right here, that will still stop when it comes up here, because of the way I got this skived off there at an angle. When it rocks up, that tube of 6 is hitting this tube of 6, but I still put this across the back. Actually, it won't even touch it still. But anyhow, that's if I hit this too hard with my grapple and push it back. That's just a little bit more to help alleviate tension off this and maybe keep from splitting this bolt out. Guys, if I earned it, give it a little thumbs up. If I didn't, don't. If you think it's something that somebody else would like to see, yeah, leave a comment, leave a thumbs up. It helps YouTube and put it out to other people and say, well, that's just not the junkest video there ever was. It may not be for everybody, but it's a decent video. So if I earned it, give it a like, thumbs up, leave me a little comment down there. Just tell me hey, something like that. It all helps me out. Thank you.